And how do you do there, folks? Okay. Thought I was dead, but no, I keep coming back. Okay, guys. Okay. This is, you thought I was dead, but no, I keep coming back. So, how do you do? And, okay, let's get things going here. Kids, the future. Children being the future. Oh, dude, I'm not gonna rain on your parade here, kids. Kids barely know what they did yesterday in grade school. So, where did this phrase, children are the future, come from? Like, it seems like, I mean, that seems to be a lot of pressure on the kids, to be called that. Children are the future? Like, what? Like, I do get it. Like, I really don't get it. How can kids be, or children be how can kids be the future? They don't even know what they did a day ago. They don't even know what they did a year ago in first grade. And now they're responsible for the future. Like, I mean, please, all right? That's bullying in the 5th degree, like that's bullying in the 5th degree, all of a sudden, kids are the future. Who, like who, like I mean, who's, like I mean, who's been, like I mean, who thought that was a good slogan? It is not. It is good. Like, who thought that was a terrific slogan? Which it is. Which is not. Which it's not. Whoever thought that was a good slogan? Like, how did, like, whoever thought that, they need their head examined. Children are the future. Come on. If children were the future, we would be screwed. If children were the future, we would for sure be screwed. Because not only is that bullying in the highest, because not only is that the biggest type of, because not only is that bullying of the highest nature, because not only is that bullying in the highest nature, it is rhetoric. It is rhetorically, and God forbiddingly wrong to say that. Dude, whoever thought that was a good slogan or a good idea to make children this future, viewers beware. They need a psychiatrist. Okay, they really need a psychiatrist because children are not the future. Okay, higher authority is the future. Yeah, in middle age, higher authority is the future. You know, parents, grandparents, uncles and aunts. Like, that's the future. You leave it with the kids, they'll run mini marts and malls with, like, if you leave it with the kids being that, you're gonna end you're gonna end up with a terrific phone bill and a car and not only a phone bill, but like the whole world would collapse. You know, they're little. They're little. They haven't had much of a future. They haven't had much of a past yet. They're just starting out. So how can you tell me that the juniors are the future when obviously they're just starting out? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't make sense. It does not make any biological sense to say the children are the future, because they're not. They do they barely know what they did in kindergarten a year ago or first grade. Now they got pressure to succeed by the government and everyone else to carry on the responsibility of a 50-year to carry on the responsibility of a 50 and 60-year-old. Oh, like, I mean, that's terrifying. That is terrifying, like you wouldn't believe. Like, I happen to like kids, but I wouldn't go that far. Like, I happen to like kids, but I wouldn't call them the future. You know? We're talking parents and grandparents and store owners. You know? Guys like that. The higher authority here. That's the higher authority. The middle age authority, you know, people like me, we have less chance. We have more chance of being, you know, the youth of the future than the little tiny kids have that. Middle youth, you know, middle youth like me. We have a chance. We have a better chance of being the youth of the future than someone who's barely 3 years old. Like, dude, come on, like, is dude, like, middle youth like me have a better chance of being the youth of the future than someone who's barely 3 years old. Like, love, please, will you? And for anyone new in here, who's watching this, I want you to realize that it's teenagers and anyone over the age of 20, and, you know, people like that. They're the youth of the they're the real youth of the future. You know, teenagers and anybody up and over that. You know, parents and grandparents are definitely the future. But don't give that responsibility. But don't give that awesome, powerful responsibility over to someone who's barely 2 and 3 years old. You know, like, it might as well say that the infants are the future, and I don't even want to go there. Infants, they don't really have a future. Okay, they're going to get older and develop you know, their own way of the world, like, the two, like that's obvious, but it's very unobvious to make an infant, let alone a nation of infants, the future. So dude, so don't go around putting that on them when they're too young to even know what the future is. Like, good God, like, and I'm not saying they're not going to be too young, like forever. I just mean whether they do have they have no connection with the future whatsoever. They they were just barely born, or they're 3 years old. Like, and God help us if you put that on 5-year-olds. You know, like someone who's at least 25, someone who's at least 18, does, does has way more, like anyone who's 13, 14, 15, and 16, and 17, and 18. That's the real youth of the future right there. Okay, the higher authority youth, parents, store owners, uh, the Pope, people that have businesses. Now there's the age of now there's the future looking right at you with a handshake, coming up. Like we do need, like, put it in their hands. Don't put it in. Do not put it in the hands of either, like, people who are at least 12 and higher. Okay, they are the future. You give that to an infant or someone who's 3 months or even like a year old, you're gonna be dead, in trouble, and running like hell because kids kids can barely put their clothes on right. Kids can barely put their clothes on without asking for help. So, from mom and dad. So, the, like, I mean, that is no way to treat, the underprivileged, which is nothing, which is who they, which, there's a reason why they're called kids. They're the underdog society. They're lower than the underdog society. They're on the ground. They're teething, and and uh, and drinking milk out of bottles and stuff like that. And and like and like having their own little, like, tea parties and this and that, or whatever. Like, you're gonna put this, you're gonna put debt, put debt, like you're gonna put that responsibility of the future in the hands that are too young to even know what the future is. They're terrified of that. They're terrified of that. And you know why they're terrified of that? Because they don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. They don't even know what life is like on the other side of the sandbox. I'm not saying they're not going to, they don't even know what life is on the other side of the sandbox. Because they're still in that, mine, and she took my toys. He took my this. He took my diaper. Like, you want that? You want that holding the future? Dear God, no. Jesus, God, no. Like, do not do that. Do do not, for the love of everybody in the Bible, do that to the kids. They are more terrified of they are more terrified of you know they are more terrified of even, like, the movie Casablanca, than the kids are more terrified of classic movies like Casablanca, because it's too, like, for one, it's too over it's way, because one, classic movies like Casablanca are too, over their head, are way over their head, and they wouldn't get it. I'm not saying they couldn't get it, as they grow up, to as they grow, but in that period, they'd rather watch Barney, than watch a classic like Casablanca, So, dude, don't go putting the future in their hands. They're too young. They're too little. You know, they're too bonkers to know what that is. And I don't blame them, because I was once there myself. I didn't know what the future was. I didn't even know what it spelled. I didn't even know how the word future spelled when I was there. But when I was in that, you know, I, I was there myself, because you know I didn't even know what the future was, let alone how to spell it. So, but now that I had some years on me, I knew I've got some sense of what the future is. I got a lot more sense than I did back when I was 5. I'll tell you that. And that's not, no, right, not, not, and that's totally all right. We do, we don't need all this, like, you know, we don't need any of this, you know, Barney watching, um, you know, Barney and we don't need these Barney and Rugrats, and we don't need, like, I love the Rugrats still, but the show and the animated movies, but that's more for kids more than adults, really. Adults can watch them with their kids, but that's just but that's about it. Um, Kids are more into Barney and the Rugrats and iCarly and stuff like. Well, not iCarly. They wouldn't know what iCarly was. Uh, you know, uh, uh, they wouldn't know what iCarly would be at the age of 2.5. So, like, I'm talking stuff for toddlers. Treehouse, Rugrats, Berenstain Bears, stuff like that. That's kids programming. Barney, uh, the Polka Dot Door, Pokeroo, stuff like that. Kids programming. It's not like they don't. It's not like they don't have an interest in the future. They're too young to have that interest. So, and to do, and they just don't know what that is. They wouldn't. They would not. They would not know how to even spell future, let alone know what it was. They wouldn't know how to spell the word future, let alone. Uh, they would not know how to spell the word future, let alone being responsible for the future, So, you know, like you're cooked. Your goose is cooked. In fact, in fact, it's burnt. Because kids don't, you know, kids do not know what the future is. They don't even know how to spell that word. They don't. So you're telling me that you would put the future in the hands that can't even spell the word future? That's freaking stupid, if you ask me. Like, and we're at 20 minutes here. Um, I like I'm just saying, do like I would do that. Like, I would never do that to my kid. So why should any of you do that? Put the future in their hands and say that they're the kids, and say that they're the children of the future. They're not even the children of Barney's backyard. They're, they're not even the children of Barney's backyard, let alone the future. So, something to think about, something to put in, something to put in your tea, something to put in your tea after you have your supper. You know, like, kids do not know what the future is. They don't even know how to spell the word future. And you expect them to be the future of it? And you expect, like, kids do not know anything about the future. They barely know how to spell the word future, let alone being responsible for it. So, all right, like, let off, like, bugger off and leave the kids alone. They're not the future by a long shot. Teenagers and store and business owners and 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 parents and grandparents, they're the future. All right, leave it. Put it. If you leave it, like, kids wouldn't know what to do with the future, let alone be responsible for it. So, like, we're talking 3-year-olds. We're talking infants here. We're talking infants and 2-year-old and 3-year-old and 4-year-olds. They do not know. They do not know anything about the future, and like, I mean, they'd rather be watching Barney than be responsible for the future. You know, they'd rather be watching the Flint. They'd rather be watching Barney and Treehouse and the Flintstones than to be responsible for something like the future. That's what kids are about. You know, they're having fun. They have no idea what the future is. So instead of putting the future in the kids' hands, put it in hands that have been there, like parents, grandparents, business owners, storekeepers, people who run stores and stuff, kids. And I am sorry to repeat this. Maybe I am sorry, maybe I'm not sorry. But kids do not know what the future is. They'd rather, like, if you ask me, or, sorry, if you ask a kid what they think what the future is, they're going to tell you straight up. Treehouse. Treehouse TV. Yeah, yeah. They know what the future is because they're watching it on TV. We're talking Treehouse. We're talking the Flintstones. We're talking Barney, the Polka Dot Door. That's what their future is at that age. So don't go telling me you're going to put the whole world in their hands when they don't even know what to do with it. If anything, the world would be polluted for sure. If you put it in the hands of kids, they would not know how to. They wouldn't know what the future was if they if they if, if they stepped on it. You know, you ask any kid what the future is, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you that it's the polka dot door or or Treehouse TV. That's their future, right there. That's their future. Anything they can say on TV. That you know, if you ask a kid, or here's a better idea: ask a school of kids what they think what the future is, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you, and it's going to be something like this. Okay, the future. When is Barney coming on? Bingo. You got your answer. You don't need to go any further. You know. Now, if you put the future in the hands of parents, store owners, or any kind of business owners and teenagers, you'll get something. You'll get something because you're looking at the youth right there. Teenagers. They sometimes have boyfriends and girlfriends. They have this or that. They got more older things to worry about. So yeah, so yeah, you want to talk about people that are responsible for uh, for being the youth of the future. It's either teenagers, parents, or business owners. You put it in their hands, and you put it in their hands, and the world will be a better place. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. It's in the newspapers. It's in the news. You know, you don't see a 2-year-old being. You don't see a 2-year-old running for president, do you? That's what I'm talking about. They don't do that thing. They don't do that kind of thing because that's not who they are. They watch Barney. They watch Treehouse. They watch the polka dot door for crying out loud. So don't go. So don't go telling me that kids are the future. The children are the future. Don't go telling me that because they're not. They're more interested in Barney, the polka dot door. Some of them, maybe The Simpsons. You know, you tell any kid what they think the future is, and they were like, the future. Uh, hey, look at Barney, the dinosaur. You got your answer there. You got your answer there. You ask a teenager that, they were like, you ask a teenager that, you'll get a better, you'll get somewhat a better. You ask a teenager that, guy or girl, I guarantee you, you'll get a better answer. Let's say I got let's say I got to go to I got to go to high school during the day. I'm going over to the girlfriend's house an hour after that, and then I'm coming home and I'm doing the dishes, or I'm doing my algebra. You know, that, bingo, bingo. That's the future. That's the future. Yes, a store owner that, or parents that, they give you at least a 95 answer every time. So just something to think about. Kids do not know what the future is. They're more interested in Barney the dinosaur, The Simpsons, or or Elf the show. Are you kidding? They got a cat. Anything like that. You got your answer on all levels. You know, So don't put, so don't go telling me. Do not go telling me, and I must have said this 60 times, and I must have said this 60 times already. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't go telling me that kids are the future. The children are the future, because they're not. They're more interested in watching Barney the dinosaur than running for president. Having said that, having said that, um, and been there and done that, and whenever I do something else in here, whenever else I do something in here, see you later. Peace out, and keep watching the skies, or keep watching the sky.